Thank you for volunteering to serve as a caucus official for the 1st Kentucky Republican Presidential Caucus. As a caucus official, you will arrive at your caucus location no later than 9 a.m., an hour before voting begins. Your caucus chair will have arrived no later than 8 a.m., and he will greet you and give you an introduction to the space and how it will be set up. Prior to your arrival, your caucus chair will measure and mark the mandatory 25-foot minimum distance from the voting area to the area where it is permissible for presidential campaigns and other organizations to set up. This second area is a great opportunity for groups such as the County Republican Party, local Republican women's groups, college Republican groups, and local elected Republicans to gain exposure, to recruit new members, or to advertise their Lincoln Day dinners. We recommend that the caucus chair set this area up in the foyer or near the front doors of the caucus location. If you are participating in a regional caucus, the entire voting process must be kept separate. Separate sign-in tables, voting areas, and tabulation as required by RPK rules. All caucus locations should be handicap accessible and allow for ease of movement to anyone in a wheelchair both inside and out. In an effort to grow the county and state parties, RPK will provide a sheet for you to gather emails that are to be returned to RPK for us to input into our system for you. Under no circumstances is this a requirement on voters. This is strictly done on a voluntary basis, but we hope to use the caucus as a party-building opportunity. If your duty as a caucus official will be to work a sign-in station, then your caucus chair will inform you as to your assigned segment of the voter roll. Once you have your assignment, you will go to the area where the caucus supplies are stored and retrieve the voter roll binder that you were assigned along with 2 ink pens. You will take these items to your assigned station. Remember to silence your cell phone for the remainder of the day. Next, affix a sign to the front of the table so that voters will know what section of the alphabet is contained in your voter roll binder. At this point, your sign-in station is complete. Before the doors of the location are opened, the last thing you will need to do is be given a quantity of blank ballots. You will give these to voters, 1 to each, after they have signed in at your station. Before blank ballots can be given to caucus officials for distribution to voters at sign-in stations, the caucus chair, along with at least 1 other caucus official as a witness, will open the sealed box in which the ballots arrived from RPK. This sealed box is not under any circumstances to be opened prior to the morning of the caucus or by anyone other than the caucus chair in the presence of a witnessing caucus official. If your duty as a caucus official will be working with ballot tabulation, you will be asked by your caucus chair to help with the setup of the tabulation area and ballot box or boxes. This table should be placed in a location away from the voting area, and voters should not be around the tabulation team. All that's needed to conduct a hand count will be a table, 3 chairs, pens, and tabulation Form A and Form B. You are now ready to open the doors at 10 a.m. and let the voting begin. One of the most important duties of a caucus official is the smooth running of the sign-in stations. Sign-in stations are the first interaction that voters will have with officials, and it is important that voters are greeted in an orderly and efficient manner by a friendly and knowledgeable official. If it is your duty to direct voters to the appropriate line for sign-in, you will direct them to the appropriate sign-in line based on their last name. In order to do this job effectively, you must be familiar with which sign-in stations represent which sections of the alphabet, so it is very important that you spend some time prior to the opening of the doors studying the layout and making any notes necessary for your success. When a voter approaches your sign-in station, it is your responsibility as the caucus official to be smiling and presenting a warm and welcoming environment. Greet them and ask their name and to see their identification. Next, ask for the voter's date of birth. You will locate their name in the voter roll binder. After finding their line, confirm the identity of the voter using one of the approved forms of identification. These are driver's license, social security card, credit card, identification card with picture and signature, or personal acquaintance of the caucus official. If the voter's name and date of birth on their ID match the voter roll, then they are permitted to vote. You will fill in the bubble representing the form of identification that was provided and write your initials. Be mindful, there could be minor variances. Thomas might go by Tommy or Joseph by Joe. Under these circumstances, verify the voter by the remaining means: date of birth, address, or picture. It is possible that a voter will show up who is registered in a neighboring county. If this happens, you are to remind the voter that they are only allowed to vote in the county they are registered. If your county has multiple caucus locations, be prepared to help those voters who show up at the wrong location. This should be done by having all caucus location information handy for reference. After the voter has been identified in the voter roll, you will instruct them to sign their name on the signature line, and you may hand them back their identification with the blank ballot. You will instruct them to take the ballot to the designated voting area to be completed. Only the voter is allowed in the voting area, which will be observed by a caucus official at all times. Some voters who come to the caucus location and attempt to sign in may find their name in the voter roll marked with the stamp reading "Ballot Mailed" on the signature line. This means that they were mailed an absentee ballot and are ineligible to vote in person, and you may not give them a ballot. If anyone becomes upset or argumentative, please get the attention of the caucus chair and/or the caucus security. Once a voter has indicated their choice for president on their paper ballot, they will move to the ballot box table and insert their ballot into the ballot box shown here. The ballot box should never be left unattended while the caucus is open, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. local time, or while voters are present. It is important that a caucus official observe the voter placing their ballot into the ballot box. The observer should ensure that the voter casts only one ballot, and that no one tries to put anything other than an official ballot inside the box. Under no circumstance should the voter be allowed to reach into, open, lift, move, reposition, or otherwise manipulate the ballot box. Additionally, no voter shall keep a ballot for any reason, nor should ballots be discarded. It is of the utmost importance that caucus officials work diligently to serve all voters in a timely and accurate manner. Caucus officials should refrain from any and all discussion of the candidates, their personal opinions, and any results with or in the presence of any voters or candidate representatives. Do not wear t-shirts, buttons, or anything else advocating for a candidate. Please be mindful of the lunch and restroom break needs of caucus officials. You should have alternate caucus officials ready to replace them as needed. Per caucus rules, voting is set to cease at 4 p.m. local time. So at 4 p.m., the caucus chair will designate one caucus official to take a place at the end of the line of voters who are waiting to sign in, thereby marking the end of all voters eligible to cast a ballot. It is important that no exceptions be made, and that this is done precisely at 4 p.m., as the rules specifically state that only those in line to vote by 4 p.m. may participate. In this training video, we will learn how to properly remove cast ballots from the voting area. We will also discuss the proper way to count and tabulate those votes using a hand count. It will be at the discretion of each caucus chair as to when ballots should be counted. For counties with a large number of Republican voters, or with high voter turnout, it may be advised that ballots be removed from the ballot box and counted by the tabulating team throughout the day. Otherwise, ballots may be counted by the tabulating team all at once when voting has ended and the last ballot has been cast. When cast ballots are removed for tabulation, only the caucus chair or one of the 3 caucus officials that are members of the tabulating team are authorized to do so. This caucus official will carefully but quickly carry the ballot box to the tabulation table, remove and hand the cast ballots to the tabulation team, and return the ballot box to the voting area. If a presidential campaign's representative is present, who is authorized to observe the tabulating process, the caucus chair should ensure that they are in possession of a letter from Mac Brown, the chairman of RPK, certifying that they are approved to observe the process. Before we begin tabulating, let's ensure we have what we need. The 3-person tabulating team should have several ink pens, 2 blank Form A tally sheets, and a stack of uncounted cast ballots. Only these items are permitted to be on the tabulating table. At no time should the tabulating team use any electronic device other than a calculator while actively tallying votes during the tabulating process. At no point should you share results with anyone other than the caucus chair. The success of the caucus depends on you to maintain ballot integrity and secrecy of unofficial caucus results. Only the Executive Committee of the Republican Party of Kentucky is allowed to release caucus results to the media and the public per the official presidential caucus rules. Remember, the Kentucky presidential caucus election is a secret ballot election. The voter's choice will remain anonymous. Now we can begin tabulating votes. Of the 3-person tabulating team, the person seated in the middle will be the reader. The 2 people on either side of the reader are the talliers. The reader will begin with a stack of cast ballots in front of them, and the two talliers will be ready to record votes on their Form A tally sheet. The reader will pick up cast ballots, one at a time, and while holding the ballot out in front of them, read aloud the candidate who was selected on that ballot, setting the ballot aside after reading. The ballot should be held in such a way that all three members of the tabulating team can read it, and so that any observer may see the ballot. When the reader says the name of the candidate who was selected, the two talliers will mark down one tally on the Form A tally sheet in the appropriate box that corresponds with that candidate before the reader moves on to the next ballot. The talliers should mark tallies in groups of 5 in each box before moving left to right to the next tally box. During the tallying process, as soon as the first candidate reaches 50 votes, that row of votes will be totaled for all candidates, and the talliers should compare their tally sheets to make sure there are no discrepancies between them. Then, the ballot counting can continue and tallying can resume on the next available line. When tallying is complete for a batch of ballots, add the tallies in each row and write the row total in the box corresponding to that row on the far right side of the Form A tally sheet. Ensure that the two talliers have the same number of votes on their sheets. To do this, they should compare their numbers for each row before certifying the tally sheets and moving on to another batch of ballots. If there are any differences in the totals for the two talliers, then that batch of ballots should be counted again. All three members of the tabulating team will certify that batch of ballots which were just counted by signing the bottom of both Form A tally sheets. Transfer the candidate totals from the matching Form A tally sheets to the singular Form B Certificate of Caucus Results sheet. Form B will now be signed by the three members of the tabulating team and the caucus chair. The caucus chair, or one of the three caucus officials on the tabulating team, are the only individuals authorized to report results of the tabulated ballots. The caucus chair will have a signed and completed copy of Form B, Certificate of Results, of the most recent batch of tabulated ballots. The caucus chair will already have been given the phone number at RPK headquarters that is dedicated solely to the reporting of results. Once you reach RPK on the phone, you will need to give them information in a specific way. First, give them your county and location, then your name, then the batch number, then what time this batch was tabulated, how many votes for each candidate, and how many votes total in this batch. As second verification, the tabulating team will take a picture of the completed Form B and email it to a specified address at RPK. Once this call is over, the chair returns Form B to the tabulating area. Officials will include it with the bundle of votes from that batch and seal them in an envelope, clearly labeled for each batch, and placed in the box that is designated to contain the cast and tabulated ballots. This process may be repeated throughout the day as necessary. Once all cast votes have been tabulated and reported, the ballot box or boxes containing the cast and counted votes will be sealed up using the security tape provided. When the box is secure and all votes are cast, counted, and reported, the votes are ready for transfer to RPK. The chair will be instructed by RPK as to how and when this transfer will happen. Along with the ballots, both cast and blank, the caucus chair will package and store the supplies and all other caucus materials for return to RPK headquarters.